Over the past 8 years, I've made a lot of money in cryptocurrency. Life-changing money in altcoins. 6 figures, 7 figures. It's been amazing. But with all those wins, I think now is the time to change the strategy and explain why I've stopped investing in altcoins. So I want to break down why I've quit invested altcoins, what I'm doing differently, and more importantly, what I'm focusing on to build real wealth over time, because I don't really need to chase the hype anymore. So this video is more about personal reflection and explaining what I'm doing, and I think it's important to know. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I've done very well in altcoins, and yeah, some have been horrible, some have been good, some have been a bit mixed, but we need to look at the obvious in the room here. Things are changing, but ultimately the hype and the narrative and the 100x potential, for a lot of people, they still believe that narrative. I think there's a problem there, and we need to go through that and address it and look at more things in terms of data and why it's important to look at different things with altcoins versus just being absolute, this cycle is going to be the same as last cycle, we're going to make loads of money. Even in the last cycle, boys and girls, we didn't make that much money. Let's be fair here. It wasn't as amazing as the prior cycles, and ultimately, it depends on what you hit. It's a very, very fine margin to get the perfect altcoin. So let's explain more detail. Now, when I first invested in altcoins, this was the charts, right? So I started in like end of 2016, early 2017. And I know you're going to all say, oh, but Ethereum was $12. XRP was 0.007. But ultimately, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a much higher price point, okay? That's the important factor. Majority of these coins, even on the screen here, are below their price in the Bitcoin pair. Chasing the hype, chasing the gains, when actually the gains are probably in front of you. Now, this is the thing. The successes and the failures is all based off one metric, alt seasons. Have you caught the right timings? Are you looking at the right trends? And that's the thing that I did pretty well on. But alluded to it before, some cycles, they're not as great. This cycle alone, we've hardly had any alt seasons. So why are we bothering? What is the point? You will make and keep more wealth by holding Bitcoin. That is the fundamentals here of my experience. Buying into altcoins with profit from previous cycles hasn't really worked out for me. It probably hasn't worked out for you. So let me know in the comments. I want to know how down you are on your altcoins. I know that's brutal to ask, but I think it's important to get discussions about this and understand it, because I still think people will look at this video and go, wow, that's a capitulation. But realistically, I've done it like over a year ago now. It's a long time, and I've literally just sold my last few altcoins a couple of weeks ago. I'm not bothered. I really am not. And that's the thing that you need to kind of be at peace with. To understand that, you know something, I don't think altcoins are going to make mega money. There is some ways, let's be honest here, but looking at the top 10, top 20, they're not going to change your life if you've got like $1,000 anymore. That's the realistic thing that people do not want to talk about. But other reasons why you should probably consider this is the fact that altcoins have huge risks, in my opinion. They're unsustainable. Their emissions are ridiculous. The market cycle narrative, they don't always match and matter because there's narratives at play there. VCs and angel investors and key opinion leaders are getting absolutely, the ticket to wealth, and the dumping on you. Not to mention as well the exchanges, the market makers. Have you ever noticed how Binance, everything that gets listed on Binance just dumps because they're getting the coins, they're just dumping them, they don't care, literally. But as I've alluded to it, 99, in my opinion, 99% at least, of altcoins have underperformed Bitcoin in the last 3 years, maybe 4 years for some, which is absolutely baffling. Before we go on, please do hit that subscribe button. Yes, my content's changed a bit more education, more evergreen, but I'm hoping it'll be much better for you in the long term. But yeah, please do hit that subscribe button and the like button if you enjoy this sort of content. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm focusing on. The first one and the obvious one, if you've been following me along, with the last few videos, I've talked about dollar cost average and why it's important and why you should be doing this. As you can see here on the screen, I know you can't really see because my head's in the way, but 206% up if you dollar cost averaged over the course of the last 5 years. What does that give you? It gives you fuel, it gives you opportunities, it gives you assets to play with and able to make more money with it, which is where we're going to come into the trading side of it in a second, right? But at the end of the day, the biggest factor of all of this video is you need to learn to keep wealth. And where would you rather keep your wealth? In an altcoin, as I said before, hoping it goes up, or in Bitcoin that, let's be honest, is the price of the market. Remember, the BTC pair of the market is that asset class price. It just makes sense, right? So be mindful of that and don't get caught in the USD trap. But let's go into the obvious section here of trading. Why you need to look at narratives and cyclical areas where, you know what, the hype's there, there's money to be made. Now, this is a total 3/BTC chart. This is the overall picture. And as I said before, I want to explain something in simple detail. Basically, this is the price of the market in the BTC pair. Every single BTC pair you look at, whether it's Ethereum or whatever, that price at 2,290 equals a price in USD of Ethereum. And as I've alluded to before, we are all the way back down to like silly 2019, 2018 levels. Basically, we've lost all them gains, and if you've been holding it, you're probably absolutely rotten, stinking in a mess right now. That's the thing. But what we need to look at and consider is the fact that each and every market cycle, you have these little alt seasons, right? As you can see, previous cycles where it's much higher, again, higher. Where we're going to go here, are we going to bottom out? Probably at some point, I don't know when. But ultimately, are we going to create new highs on here? Probably not, unfortunately. And it's likewise, and it's the exact same sort of situation with the total 3/BTC. Even those more and more stronger assets coming to the fore, previous cycle was way up here. The last cycle was here. Are we just going to bounce up to like these levels? It's going to be a bit of a wishy-washy one, maybe. What about if it's only certain ones that go up? That's not going to be fun, is it? We're not going to get those, everything rises when the tide's high sort of vibe, are we? Let's be honest here. So let's talk about the trading side of it and what things I'm looking at, essentially. So when you're looking at altcoins and cyclical areas and breakouts and daily time frames and stuff like that, they're very volatile. They move a lot, and there's a lot of like trigger elements to it. So basically, one thing that's important as well is the fact that when Bitcoin's very, very interested in terms of price action, altcoins react badly. I.e., if Bitcoin goes up 2%, then it drops 1%, altcoins gonna be down lows. Look at Link, for example, right? Link is a fantastic opportunity where you can see how volatile the market can be. And this is the one thing that scares the living shit out of people. You do not need leverage to trade crypto. You don't. You can just go spot. You can do it in the BTC pairs if you want to. Likewise, if I go to the BTC pair, you can probably make some money on the Satoshis of this if you're putting Bitcoin into the USD, into Link, for example, and not worry about the USD. But if you're just trading USD, you can see how the market will trend. And if you can spot uptrends and downtrends, you're going to probably find yourself pretty good in this market, realistically, because they move a lot. And just to give you a bit of context, if we go from this breakout zone here, that's 150. It's fucking meant. I know you're not going to get top to bottom, but, if you're riding some of this trend up, you've made some money. Why would you want to hold that? Because what's going to happen is the psychology in your noggin is going to be, well, look at this, Chainlink's fucking amazing now. It's now this, that, and the other. And we all know what happens when things go high. Everyone talks about it and everyone's like, oh, it's the best thing since sliced bread. But realistically, what would you rather be, in and out of this, or would you be rather holding it and be down 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 million %? That's where the thing is. And when you zoom out on assets like this, you're going to start noticing they move quite a bit. Even in the consolidation phase, they move a bit. But ultimately, look, boom, down. You're literally round tripping your entire bags. That's the problem, right? So why would we do it? We don't need to do it. We can be in, we can be out, we can be in full control of our destiny and not be overexposed. That's the thing. People don't do that. If you're interested in trading, by the way, Blowfin on the screen. You don't have to do it, but if you're looking for someone to trade, or if you want to have more specific trading elements to it, go there. It's open for the UK if you're interested. And the last thing that I'm focusing on is actually Bitcoin runes, the Bitcoin ecosystem. Now, you can do this with other ecosystems, not just Bitcoin, obviously. If you're into certain ecosystems, you will have good data, good knowledge, good information. You may find out stuff, right? Play it. If you can see the hypes there, or there's going to be some sort of hype building and you feel that you're early, go for it. Look at the Solana side of it. Look at what happened on other ecosystems recently. You get these little niche bull market runs where they just go boom, bump. No one else notices but you in that ecosystem, in that little echo chamber, which is good, right? So with the likes of the Bitcoin world, right? Massive money in Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed. There's a lot of whales there. Ordinals like to be collected by rich people. Bitcoin runes are very, very new. They're just over, almost a year old. They're actually under a year old, pretty much 11 months now. What if some of these just take off because exchange listed them and they just go flying on chain? It's happened before. Probably happen again. It's one way to make Bitcoin. It's a risky way, but ultimately it's a play that I'm playing because I can risk a lot less Bitcoin and get more reward versus risking more in altcoins and hoping for a 2 or 3x. Let's be honest. And yes, before you ask in the comments, I am still using Bitcoin as my base currency. If I'm looking at any sort of like opportunity in the market, if it's spot, I may well be using my Bitcoin to grow that. Same with runes. I'll be using Bitcoin to grow those. It's just the way it is. That side of it hasn't changed. So in terms of myself, do I wish I did this earlier? Yes, 100%. I'll show you the chart in a second. But the one thing that I wish I knew is I wish I wasn't so heavy in altcoins because they have done very bad. And I know that it's just a cycle specific thing, but I don't think the power of Bitcoin was fully realized this cycle for a lot of people. And I think people are now struggling. That doesn't mean now sell all your altcoins into Bitcoin. I was already heavy in Bitcoin, luckily. But my advice is you need to kind of reconsolidate what you've got and understand the market research. You need to go and do your research again and find out, is your asset any good? Let's be honest. If it isn't, maybe look at doing something about it. Let's be honest here. But let's talk about something that I think is very important, and I think people miss the point completely. So when we talk about asset performance, this is Cardano, random example. But you can see from that cycle topish area, we have been in a horrible downtrend and we're not created any sort of like real big momentum for 1,300 days pretty much. That's a long time and it's down. Current price is 86%. Why would you hold it? Well, that's the thing. AVAX looks exactly the same. There was a bit of an upthrust here, but overall from the market top to here, we're down a lot. Dogecoin, similar sort of situation, down quite a lot. Let's just the less we talk about Ethereum, probably the better. But this isn't all in isolation. It's not like there's very rarely an asset that's done fantastic. Maybe Solana you could argue, but overall since its market high, it's not done amazing. It's now broken down and worth even less. Even the likes of Sui, for example, which is outperformed the market for the most time, it's still down over 50% of its market value since January this year. Probably going to go lower. And I know that's hard to kind of like stomach for people when you're buying the hype. So this is where the situation is. The one that's weird is the fact that Tron has actually held its value, but it's not really done anything. And then even XRP, and I know XRP fans, fair play, you've been holding, but ultimately it hasn't done a lot for a long time. If you've been holding since like 2019, you're probably just about break even right now. That's the difference in the market. And I know people are going to go, well, but what about the USD pairs? Well, the USD pairs, it only matters because Bitcoin's done this. I've already done videos on the fact that you could have just held Bitcoin throughout the 5-year period and you would have made more money versus altcoins. But I think if you traded altcoins and bought at the good prices and sold and didn't hold on and didn't be a hodler forever, you probably would be up a lot more now. So if you want to know more about what I'm doing with my dollar cost average and the full fundamentals of it, watch the video that I'm recommending.